Welcome to Live Like an Acrobat. I'm your host, Shenea Stiletto, two-time World Acrobatic Gymnastics Champion, USA Gymnastics Hall of Fame member, and Cirque artist. I'm also an advocate for rain. On each episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast, I discuss acro handstanding in terms of training tips, coaching, and I explore circus and acrobatic gymnastics competitive life as I have lived it from past to current, and I theorize on what the future may bring in these fields. On each episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast, I will bring you insight through my own experiences, which are rooted in a perspective built on social justice advocacy and how these important issues continue to intersect between the circus arts and acrobatics competitive world at large. On each episode, I have the pleasure of discussing these various narratives with a variety of fascinating special guests. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast. Please consider a donation to encourage the continuation and evolution of this podcast. The details of how to donate are located in the show notes. Please make sure to check out the circuspreneur.blog.com for extended conversations and interactive content of each episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast. On this episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast, I have the fabulous honor of interviewing world-class hand balancer Alona Zhuravel about her amazing circus career. Alona Zhuravel has a circus hand balancer resume beyond her youthful years. With nearly 2 decades in the professional circus arts world and still going fiercely strong, Alona has performed and received accolades from the top circus companies and festivals in the world. Her artistic achievements include Circus Flic Flac, the GOP, Circus Finlandia, the Circus Youth Festival in Moscow, where she was awarded the Princess Stephanie of Monacos Special Prize, Le Plus Grand Cabaret du Monde, Cirque Pinder, the legendary Swiss TV show Belissimo, Circus Adrenaline in Moscow, the Citta di Latina Festival Special Prize winner. She was the Bronze Lion winner at a top circus festival in China. And most recently, Alona performed as the iconic character in Cirque Du Soleil's touring show Varekai as the Promise. And even more recently, she performed as the solo hand balancer in Cirque Du Soleil's resident show Joya. Alona has a style all her own and presents an elegance of shape-shifting to the hand balancing medium like no other. Please welcome my special guest, Alona Zhuravel, to the show. Hi, Alona. It's such an honor to have you on the show. You are a hand balancing inspiration to so many budding circus artists and professional hand balancers as well. Your career is like a work of art. I want to tell listeners that it was a privilege to do Cirque du Soleil's Varekai while you were on leave to have your baby, and that I would not have made it without you being there to help me get integrated into the show before you left. You were so hands-on and open to helping me with so many aspects that go into performing the character, The Promise. That was not an easy journey for me because I had to learn everything super fast, and it's such a big, iconic role to take on in such a limited amount of time. Thank you so much for being there for me. Also, I want listeners to know that I actually met your mom before I met you while in Germany performing in Circus Roncalli's Apollo Theater in Dusseldorf, which I always found really sweet. She's beautiful. And I wanted to ask, to begin the interview, what influence on your career has your mother had, Alona? And how did you become the superstar hand balancer that you are today? What was your training to become a hand balancer like? And did you always have hand balancing as your focus?
Hi, Shenea. Thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. And I'm slightly nervous because I haven't done one before, but I'm very glad to be here. And thank you for all the compliments. I really, really appreciate them, and I'm very flattered to hear them. And I think you did an amazing job on Varekai when you arrived in such a short amount of time and in such short notice. I remember this was quite a crazy time because everything went pretty fast at this point. So my mom is cool. My mom is a hand balancer as well, and I didn't even know that you met her in Düsseldorf. But, well, what kind of influence did she have on me? I think she had the biggest influence in my career, because she's been a hand balancer, and this is what I've always wanted to be, and she was definitely my biggest role model for that. And so, she taught me, she showed me how to do all the handstands. We came up with new combinations, we came up with new tricks. So I would say she had the biggest impact on my career. I would definitely not say that I'm a hand balancing superstar or anything, but it took some training, of course. It took many years of training, but also I think because I started very early, I started to practice when I was 6 years old. I think this gave me more time to improve my skills. I didn't come from acro sports or gymnastics or anything, so hand balancing was my main focus from the beginning on. So I think this actually helped me a lot to become good, I guess. And it gave me time to actually work on my skills for a very long time. I never had a crazy training routine. I would say I had a nice childhood because I had 2 hours of training a day, which I think are very appropriate for every 6-year-old, 6 years and on. So I can't complain that I've had to train too much, that I've had to do too much. So it kind of was a very natural process for me to go to school, then to training, and by the time I was 10, I started to perform. So this came to it as well, but I still had plenty of time to enjoy life, I think.
I love to hear about your journey starting from a little girl as an acrobat and what age you were. You said 6 years old, and for me I was a bit older than that, and it was so funny because when my first coach found me, when he discovered me, and I was about 8 years old, he told my family, she's a bit old, but we'll take her anyway, because I think that she would be great. So around the time that I was just starting to learn acrosport, just a little bit after that, that's around the age that you started to perform. So it's interesting to see the difference in age and when we all start on our handstanding journeys and how we got to where we are now. Actually, I think it's really fascinating, and it's darling to think of you at 6 years old and having your training. And I love to hear that you also felt like you had a childhood and that it was balanced, so to speak, for you. And, for not everybody, it felt like that. For me also, too. I had such a really nice time starting off as a young acrobat and having training and being part of a team. And it was just so great. And I really wanted to pour myself into it always anyway. So it was just really easy for me as well because I loved it so much. And I just always think that's also really cool to be encouraged and have your family, because your parents are both circus artists, and of course your mom is as a hand balancer. I just always think that's so rad and really awesome, and so intimate, and so caring in a different way, because also too, like, all of our trainers like are our second parents, and for some people it's even their first parents, of course, like for you, but even artists or sportsmen that, you know, identify their coaches as their first parent, because it's who you're with the most. So for me, it's one and the same, actually. For me, my coaches were so much my family and my identifying guardian and adult for me. They were the most important person in my life. So I find that very, very sweet and very, very lovely and beautiful. I want to thank you again, Alona, for bringing together hand balancers from all over the world about a month ago to participate in your Handstand Together project. It was what we all needed while not being able to perform as we usually do, and it was perfect motivation. The video began in Kiev, Ukraine, with a brilliant little hand balancer, and we connected with him through a little paper plane flown from hand balancer to hand balancer. How did you create the concept, Alona? What was your inspiration to make this inspiring project? What was the effect of this project? What did you hope to inspire with this Handstand Together video?
Well, thank you for participating in it, because I was contacting all the great hand balancers I know, and of course you're one of them. And I don't know, I felt like we needed something like that. Especially this year, there was not much work, and for circus performers, for all kinds of performers or self-employees, it's been a rough year, I think. So I was considering to do something similar for a very long time. I wanted to have some connection between hand balancers, because often you compare yourself to another person, especially in the hand balancing business for some reasons. And I wanted to show that every single one of us is so unique in its own way and still so talented. So I really wanted to show that. I don't know what kind of effect it had on anyone, or if it still has an effect. I have not too many followers on Instagram, so I'm not sure how to promote it more. I wish there would be more people who would actually watch it to see quite a bunch of very, very insanely talented people.
Well, then I'll take this time, Alona, to let all the listeners know that they can support your Handstand Together project by watching it and by sharing it on their social media platforms. If you are listening and you have a big, small presence on social media, please share Alona's beautiful effort that she did on behalf of all of us hand balancers. We really appreciate you sharing. It will be in the show notes of this episode. So please do so. Alona, your time in Varekai was so amazing because you became the newest icon/marketing logo for the role of the Promise. That's such a big statement. How did that make you feel? How was your time in Varekai? What advice do you have for hand balancers taking on such a big role? And how has your experience been with Cirque Du Soleil as you've worked with them for so many years? Do you have a perspective on the status of Cirque du Soleil now?
And thank you again. I'm really, really flattered to hear that. And we switched from the big top to the arena when I was there. So I guess I was kind of lucky to be able to participate in the photo shoot and to be on the new posters and in the new program. But I definitely loved my time in Varekai. It was a very special time. I went through quite a difficult phase when I arrived there, so it was like a fresh breath of air, I think, when I came there, and everything was very organized, and everything was it was new and it was exciting, and I loved doing the promise character. I loved having my shiny sparkly costume, and I loved being on stage every single day, because in Cirque du Soleil you need to be on stage every single day, and this is something I really actually enjoy. So my experience with Cirque has been mainly positive. I've never had any big issues. I've never been disappointed, also because I've never expected too much of it. I'm a very realistic person, so I wasn't I didn't have like pink glasses on my eyes when I arrived there. I came there prepared, so I was prepared to work, and this is what I did. But Varekai, also I found my family, I found my husband, I got a baby in Varekai, so many changes happened there, and I'm very thankful for the time I had there. The status right now of Cirque du Soleil, well, it's a very difficult topic, I think, because we don't know what's going to happen to them. Right now it doesn't look very good, even though I think they will come back. They will have a comeback. I mean, it's pretty impossible that just an iconic brand basically disappears out of our lives just from one day to the other. I do think there is going to be quite a few changes, expecting the artists who are going to come back. So I don't think that all of the shows are going to come back. This is for sure. But I don't know. I have my own thoughts, but not sure if I should really spread them around too much.
I just want to say, Alona, that your ideas are always worth spreading around. You are brilliant, you're insightful, you have so much knowledge and so much expertise and so much experience in this business. I understand you, and I support you, and I won't push you to ask for more, but know that your ideas, your insights are always welcome and necessary and needed. In this Stand for the Cause pause, I wanted to reflect on Alona's comments about when the circus comes back, Cirque du Soleil specifically, that all shows will not be coming back. Since the recording of this episode, the show Le Rêve in Las Vegas at the Wynn Casino announced that it will be closing permanently. It is not a Cirque du Soleil show, but it was created by Franco Dragone, who was one of the original innovators and creators of the Cirque du Soleil productions. He had since sold Le Rêve to Steve Wynn, the owner of Wynn Casino and Hotel, so they had the full control over the show. And I wanted to say that we stand with all of the performers, all of the technicians, all of the employees, every single person of the creative staff, of the creative team, every single person that was privileged to work on Le Rêve, which in its even original creation was one of my favorite shows that I'd ever seen. It has gone through many incarnations creatively. And if you were lucky enough to see it in its most original form, you know what I'm speaking about, because it was quite something. It continued to be a showstopper, to be a truly innovative spectacle, and it's a show that I nearly worked on myself. I have several friends and colleagues that worked and have worked in Le Rêve, and I send you so much love. The circus community sends you so much love. And if you are close to anyone in Le Rêve, please reach out to them. Let them know that you're there for them. Support them during this difficult time. And we encourage every single person a part of the Le Rêve cast and show production to continue to dream, to have hope, and to know that an even better opportunity is coming, even in the midst of challenge. And now, back to my conversation with the last promise, Alona Zhuravel. Alona, how do you navigate handstand coaching? Do you have a specific style? What do you think is the most important thing when teaching handstands? Especially because you have such a specific, beautiful, artful way to do handstands yourself.
And again, more compliments. You're really making me blush. Thank you. It really depends on whether I work with someone else or in a group, but usually when it's a one-on-one training, I try to concentrate on the goals that the person has. I really like to explain about my technique. I like to show my technique because, well, I believe in it, which I think every hand balancer should believe in their own technique if they're doing it. So, I try to connect with the student and try to help him or her as much as possible without intruding too much also. Because I think for everyone, it really depends on what you're going for in a handstand. For some people, they want to do it more professionally, or they need it for a specific act. And other people just do it as a hobby. So, I like to help each person the way he wants to be helped, I guess.
And I want to say that I can't compliment you enough, Alona. And I feel like it's so important, especially with hand balancers to hand balancers, to show people like how much like we do support each other. And I love to see, I love to support you. I love to feel supported by other hand balancers too. And I think that it's just so important, especially from people in your own field. A lot of the times, like, we're getting some, perspectives and compliments from people that aren't hand balancers in a way. And I think it's so important for us to hear support and compliments from other hand balancers, especially because we don't get to work together very often, pretty much never. I mean, you're not going to have two hand balancers in the same show, even though I've seen it and it's happened and it's a strange thing, but I have seen it. But I also think that's what was so special about our journey together, because we did meet each other with you taking your leave from Varekai and me coming in. And I think I'm reminded of it so much because that's just so rare. That would almost never happen. It would be that I would come and I wouldn't meet you. And I just think that's really special. And I have just a few experiences like that in my career, actually, where I've gotten the opportunity to be with the person who might be another hand balancer. I don't think so, though. I think it's been someone who's in a slightly different type of specialty, that I'm maybe replacing them for some reason, or we do know each other, and so we have some history together, and so we have a little time because they're on their way out and I'm on my way in. But I always remember things like that because it's just so special to me and so rare. And you're just so lovely. You recently performed for the first time in 6 months. Congratulations! How is it to perform again after so long? Where did you perform? Was it difficult? It must have felt good to be back with an audience. How did the show handle your act during these strange times?
Oh yes, it's been very exciting to perform again, even though it's in a forest. Actually, it's quite a cool and nice, very cute concept, which is in France, and it's in a beautiful, beautiful castle where they have a big forest where we actually were performing. So yeah, because of the current situation, of course, there are not too many people that are allowed to come, but since it's outside, we have enough space. Plus, there are not two big groups that are coming in to the forest, so it goes from station to station, basically. Like every act is in a different station and in a different position in the forest. So there are not too many people at once around an artist. But it still is a pretty special feeling to be able to perform again. And 6 months, 6 months is pretty long not to be able to perform, but I've been training, so it was not too difficult, actually, the transition. The first week was pretty tough because we had to do a few times 4 shows, and 4 shows, well, 4 shows are always tough. It doesn't matter in which shape you are. But I think maybe this actually brought me back to shape quicker than it would have usually done that. So I'm very grateful to have this gig. I'm very grateful to be part of this great group which I'm working with at the moment, and I hope it's not the last time.
Well, that show experience sounds just amazing and lovely, and it's inspiring, I think, for all of us and all of the listeners and everyone that is hoping and waiting to get back into a show, any type of show. And you really came back out there in such an angelic way. It sounds really magical, and I love France. I love performing in France. I've performed there many times, and at a castle. That's so sweet. There's so many castles in France. There's actually an entire city dedicated to castles, and I have been there. I wonder if that's where you were. But I'm so happy for you, and I am sure that it won't be the last time that you're performing. And I love it when a show concept inspires me to also get back into shape and feel really on the mark right away. So that's, I think, always a really big gift when you come up with a big project after you've maybe not been doing very much, or if you've just not been doing shows that are that demanding. So wonderful. I hope it just continues, and I know that shows are continuing to be very innovative of how they come back, and there's more and more events happening in really interesting, cool styles. So it's really also, I believe, a very creative time. Even if it's challenging, people are figuring it out, and we're grateful for them to figure it out so that we can see more of Alona. for those inspired by Alona Zhuravel's return to the circus stage and seeking their next circus job opportunity and are based in Germany with convenience to Berlin, the Wild Matilda Variety Show is having an open audition seeking singers, artists, show acts, musicians, comedians, and dancers. Deadline to submit to this casting is September 27th and is available through circustalk.com. Good luck. Alona, what do you think the future of circus will be like since you've worked with so many prominent companies and shows? Are you creating more projects right now? What do you want to do as you continue to grow in your career? What is important to you?
Well, it's a very unpredictable time for circus, I think. So it's tough to say. It's tough to say that, it could go two directions. Either all the quality shows stay alive, or it will happen the opposite and people get hired with 5 acts who have 5 acts, but who are definitely cheaper than the professionals. So it really depends on what people are asking for. Me personally, I would wish that, I'm always a fan of quality over quantity. So I really hope we are gonna experience another bright future of the circus, maybe even better than it was before. So we have to see. My personal goals would be to perform for a few more years, to see how my body reacts to performing more years, and then I don't know. It's a very difficult question because I've been thinking a lot about it during the quarantine. I've been considering different job options, but it is so difficult to get rid of the circus, actually. So if I could stay somehow involved with creating, with being on stage or off stage, I would love that. New projects. I am supposed to be part of Feuerwerk der Tonkunst in Germany, which is a pretty famous sports show this year. So I really hope it's going to happen, because since they have really big arenas and we are still in a pandemic, there might be a chance that it gets postponed, which will be fine because it's not going to get cancelled. It's just going to get postponed, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yes, Alona, and I like what you said, in terms of the quality over the quantity, whether, we're going to allow ourselves to continue to be exploited as a circus community with having to offer 5 acts for a company, and putting that into perspective for artists. Yes, it is a very good thing to be multidimensional and to be multifaceted, but we also have to understand, too, how much that has worked against the circus community, where it really does benefit the companies more than it benefits the artists, even though it seems like you're winning at that particular time because you've secured that job. But now you are being tasked to do the job of several different artists because you are 1 to 3 persons offering, 5 to 7, 8 acts. And why companies are doing that? They're doing that to keep their costs lower. And so it benefits them. They get more money in their pocket. And then it also allows them to drive down the cost for specific specialty acts where you're just doing your one performance, where we didn't used to say you're just doing one performance. It's always been very clear that one performance is everything. And if you look to the history of circus or, to the history of stand-up acts, there was never a question that this person would need to offer, 12 different acts to be considered for a contract. And also, too, reminding, the circus community and listeners that the prices that they're offering now for these 5 acts from a powered couple, so to speak, is so low and is literally the price that you would pay someone to do 1 act for. So you're getting 5 different acts by 2 people that you would have to pay 1 person for to do 1 performance. So again, audiences in many ways don't interpret that in the same way. I feel like in some degree, audiences do get it. Audiences can feel it, I think, on a very visceral level, that they are being duped and that there is maybe not the same standard or quality. People do feel that, and we see that even more now with, some circus companies just coming out before with just tons of shows all the time, but really degrading the quality of the acrobatics, thinking that they can get by on just having exposés of circus instead of actual circus productions with real skill. So people do get it. Audiences do know, especially enthusiasts and people that are on the pulse. It's like people that are enthusiasts of high quality performances in theater, like the opera or like ballet. They know what they're talking about. They have a certain pedigree to be able to appreciate these mediums. So to think that the audience just doesn't know the difference, I feel usually really is disrespectful to what you think the audience has the ability to gauge, because people are incredibly reflective and perceptive. We have so much contact with audiences, so we get to hear as performers all the time what people like, what they reflect on, what touched them, what inspired them, what wowed them. And also, too, not necessarily all the time, it's not what wows people that they technically want. Many times it's an emotional response that they're looking for things that may not give them that adrenaline high, so to speak, from maybe like a shocking act. I think all of those have their place in circus, so it's not me putting down anything. But I do think that that is a very important topic, especially now, because there is so much shaming that continues to go around if you are just offering 1 performance with 1 specialty that is incredibly high caliber and asking for a certain amount that should be the basic minimum for a very high caliber act as well. But there is the conversation that continues to go around in so many spaces. And obviously the agents and people that are the middlemen continue to drive those narratives. And so, of course, the artists are responding to that and supplying that demand. But I do think that this is hopefully something that will end. That's something that happened within acrobatic gymnastics as well. When I was a competitor for my last couple of seasons, they totally opened up the competitive difficulty, and you could just do as much acrobatics and as many skills as you wanted to. And it was aggressive, and it was so tiring and sickening and so hard. And, for me and my former partner to win, it was just astronomical to win world championships with those technical difficulties in place, those technical rules in place. And though it was a very, it was kind of like a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and it took acrobatics to a technical level which we've never seen before, it also displaced the originality of the sport, and it took away the artistic feel, it took away the soul of the sport, and so they had to eventually bring it back to what it was originally. And I've never been a fan of seeing just, an inflated acrobatic routine that has no dimension in it, has no connectivity in it. I have always loved, the originality, even before, I would say 2004, 2003 in acrobatic gymnastics, you would never see the same skills in a international or world or Europeans routine. You just wouldn't. Everyone had so many different original skills within their routines. And now it's come back more towards that. I would say it's a little bit more cookie cutter. Even still, there's still a certain level, certain skills that now everybody feels like they need to do. Some of them, of course, are compulsory. But I very much loved the complexity, the originality, sometimes skills that were so epically hard, but then other ones that just really just like flipped your brain upside down because they were just so poetically original and different. So the same thing happened with the sport world, and they realized that wasn't the best way to go. And again, what we see in terms of overworking artists, making them do so many different so many different disciplines in one show, and so then certain artists assuming even more risk than normal. So there's many different factors that go into why that is not maybe the best thing. And, again, in some shows, when you are a generalist, of course, like in Cirque, you are crafted to do, many different passages in a show, and you might do one or two, sometimes three things. But that's in a very controlled environment. A lot of these new shows that are coming out where they're having people do so many acts, those are not controlled environments, so the risk is also increased. And even without that increased risk in terms of danger, there's just the continued risk of diluting the specialtiness of what is circus. Alona, what has been your best circus memory as a performer, and why?
Oof, that's a tough question. I do think Varekai, the premiere of Varekai, was pretty special to me, because I've seen Varekai as I think I was 14 or 15. I saw it on stage and I was so mesmerized by more the organizational stuff of it, or the organizational side of it, more that everything was so clean and so professionally done, and the costumes were beautiful, and it was just from the beginning till the end, it was perfect. So I really wanted to be part of that perfect show, even though I didn't even consider myself having this role in the future. But when I did get it, I remembered the feelings that I had when I watched the show for the first time. So it was a very exciting moment for me to be on stage, to come from the catwalk down towards my canes, to have the support of my three girls that were surrounding me, and my stage husband. So I think this was a pretty special moment for me.
Oh, it's up there for me too. The first time that I performed the aerial entrance from the cocoon and landed on my canes in a handstand, I'll never forget that. That's something that I always wanted to do, and I never imagined being able to do it. And then once I did it, I couldn't. It was almost like it wasn't happening to me. Even after performing it multiple times, it never got old, and it never stopped being enchanting. And lastly, how is it juggling your career with being a mother, Alona? What was your experience like returning to hand balancing after having your son? How has your hand balancing training and performing changed as a mom?
Well, I don't think that much in my handstands actually have changed since I came back on stage. It was also another very exciting moment when I did come back, because I love being a mom, of course, but I also love being an artist. So I really need those two parts to have to be existing. So when I came back on tour, it was very magical, and of course I brought my son with me. It was challenging, but I did enjoy every moment of it. The only thing that might have changed is my flexibility. It's definitely not as I'm definitely not as flexible as I used to be, but that's okay. I think that's a little price to pay. I have my skills, I have my jobs, it's fine. And after Varekai, actually, I've been lucky enough to get a job in Mexico, in Joya, another show of Cirque Du Soleil, which is resident, so I've been for 3 years working in Joya. It's a resort in between Cancun and Playa del Carmen, and it was a pretty cool contract. So I've been there working, and my son was going to kindergarten, so I think we've been pretty lucky so far.
Wow, yes, Alona. Well, I support you as a working artist mother. I know that it is incredibly difficult, and I'm so happy that when you had your baby, that you had an opportunity there waiting for you and that it was held for you. That is so nice, and I'm so glad that you had an opportunity to go back to, and that your body allowed you to come back. I think it's an incredibly it's a risk. I've been with so many different circus performers. Of course, this only impacts female circus performers. Of course, when there's partnerships and things like that, I'm not saying that it doesn't affect the males, but you don't always get your career back in the same way that it was before when you have a baby and want to be able to maintain your career. And so it's a very precarious thing. It's not certain. And I have so much respect for circus artists that have their children and continue on with their careers. And I have babysat many times backstage over the years in between acts and burped babies and continue to do so. And it's so much fun. And that's a beautiful aspect of the circus world, and how we help each other, and how we're so interconnected, and how it's pretty much all hands on deck when there is a baby or children in the midst. And that's part of our world too, because there isn't always the possibility to have a nanny or a babysitter or someone to be there, and we all get by becoming aunties and uncles of the backstage, and I love that. So I'm so happy for you that you were able to come back and encouraged to come back as well as you were. I know that by being in Varekai, that it was they were very respectful of your time of off and your time to come back after you had your maternity leave. So I'm so grateful that everything worked out for you the way that it did, and I continue to want to speak on behalf for all of the circus artists that have children and that want to have children and maintain their career, because we do. And this is something that's a little bit of a myth out there in circus, beyond the circus world, is the communities and the public and people think that, if we want to have children, then that means the end of our careers and that we don't perform anymore. And that's so not true, and that couldn't be further from the truth. And circus performers have always had their children and come back and had children again and come back. And like I said, it is a very big stress on the female circus performers' bodies, and I know that up close and personal. And, have heard so many different stories, and, it's a very, very, very high task. You just don't know what's going to happen to your body and how you're going to be able to return to the stage. So it's, I think, such a dynamic and important conversation to be had, and I always love to speak about that aspect to people unfamiliar with the circus world, because I remind them that this is a family and a community, and you can continue to expand and have your family and grow your family. And I want that as an aspect to be continued in the circus world is we've seen a lot of companies come to not support that, actually, not fully, the ways that they used to. And I feel like that's dying more and more within the circus world as well, of being supported in having a family and maintaining your family in tour life and in various other ways that of a performer's family should be supported when they have children. And I think that that's a very important issue that we need to continue to speak about and get more rights back and get more of the rights back in and around that conversation and the benefits that used to be much more prevalent than they are now when it comes to having a child and being a parent and maintaining a family while having a circus career. Thank you so much for your incredible career and perspectives, Alona. Thank you for being a brilliant female hand balancer. And I say that especially because hand balancing can still be seen very much as male-dominated. Please continue to inspire male and female hand balancers with your exquisite style. Thank you for coming onto the show and for enlightening listeners with your hard-won wisdom and hard-won career and achievements as a world-class hand balancer who continues to make waves and pave the way for others to do the same. Thank you so much, Alona. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Live Like an Acrobat, where I had the pleasure of interviewing beautifully talented hand balancer Alona Zhuravel, whom I like to refer to as The Last Promise for her iconic contributions to the long-running touring show Varekai, produced and created by Cirque Du Soleil. I want to let listeners know that the Live Like an Acrobat podcast is now also available on Circus Talk, the inclusive, independent, and international online network for the circus industry. Circus Talk's mission is to create a level playing field for this industry and democratize access to information. I'm your host, Shenea Stiletto, and until next time, please stay safe and stay healthy.